So that will be on your device. Are you aware of that?
Yes, I know.
Okay. So moderator, the floor is yours.
Thank you, DTM Fabiola, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first Debate Masters Tour, and I'm quite certain that you are as excited as I am to get the ball on the road this evening. This evening, this debate contest, of course, is being hosted by the Leaders Beyond Borders Advanced Toastmasters Club. The match this evening that you will be participating in is taking place simultaneously with one other in another room. This evening in this room, we will have the match between Division C and Division E. I am Lisa Agard, and I will be your moderator for this session. At this point, I would love to introduce to you the Zoom master for this evening, who is none other than Toastmaster Asides Christina, who is here to help us all throughout this experience. I would also like to, of course, invite you to let you know that our judges are volunteering this evening. They're volunteering their time this evening. And at this point, I would like to ask them to introduce themselves. Judges, can you kindly introduce yourselves?
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Lindonna Hilaire Marshall, and I represent two clubs, Grenada Gems Toastmasters Club and Grenada Public Service Toastmasters Club. Both clubs are in Division G. Best of luck to all the debaters.
Hi, I'm Judith Goldberg. I'm with the Toastmasters Club in Curacao and in Leaders Beyond Borders.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Stephanie Cruz. I'm also a judge for tonight. I'm from Division H, from the Barangay Toastmasters Club in Aruba. Good luck, everyone.
Thank you, judges. For the Debate Masters Tour, we will be maintaining this format. For the proposition speaker, that person will have 5 minutes. For the opposition speaker, the first speaker that is, that individual, that Toastmaster will also have 5 minutes. For the second speaker of the proposition, that Toastmaster will have 5 minutes. And for the opposition speaker, the second speaker that is, they will also have 5 minutes. At some point after they've all presented, we will interact some more so that I can learn from you what your views are on this very interesting moot this evening. And as we conclude the summary, the third speaker for the opposition will have 3 minutes, and the third speaker for the proposition will also have 3 minutes to bring their summary remarks. All right, Toastmasters, are you ready? This evening, Division E is our proposing team. And of course, they will present their first speaker, and they will be known this evening as Team A. Judges, please note this on your score sheet. Division E will be referred to as Team A, and Division C will be referred to as Team B for ease in terms of moderating this evening. At this point, I am delighted to welcome the participants from Division E. Participants, will you kindly introduce yourselves in the order that you will be speaking in for Division E?
Good evening, Madam Moderator, Lisa Agard. I believe our first speaker is not in this room as yet.
All right, thank you, Toastmaster Duncan. Well, while we await the presence of the first speaker, your first speaker will be joining us though.
Yes, he will.
Excellent.
He was in the main room.
All right. I will then invite now the members of the opposing team, Division C. Can you kindly introduce yourselves in the speaking order?
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I am representing Division C as your opening speaker, Toastmaster Jackie English Jacobs.
Thank you, Toastmaster Jackie. And the second speaker for Division C?
Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I am Toastmaster Shaquille. I'm representing Division C, and I'll be your second speaker this afternoon.
Thank you, Toastmaster Shaquille. And our third speaker for Division C?
Good evening, Toastmasters and guests. I am Distinguished Toastmaster Yvonne Edwin, and will be representing as the third speaker for Division C team. Thank you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Edwin. Division E. Toastmaster, Zoomaster, our cities, can you let me know if our first speaker for Division E is in the room?
I didn't receive the name of the first speaker yet.
Okay, the first speaker is Toastmaster Agard George, Toastmaster Ernald George.
Ernald George? Okay.
Correct. He said he was placed in another room.
Wow. Let me
All
check.
right, let's give him a few minutes to get here to join us. In the interim, do we have the second and the third speakers from Division E with us? If
Yes,
you are
we
here,
do.
kindly introduce yourselves.
Division E has 2 speakers, and I am the second speaker, Sashoy Duncan.
Thank you, Toastmaster Sashoy. This evening, Toastmasters, the moot that Divisions C and E will be debating on reads, climate change is the greatest threat facing humanity today.
Listener rule for room 3, please.
Liz, were you already in room 3 at one point?
No, I was put in 1.
You was put in 1?
Right, but I need to be in 3.
Yes, I was put in 3. I need to be in 1, please.
Okay, so someone needs to open the breakout rooms, go to room 3 and move the person to room 1 from room 3.
May I be put in room 3, please? Thank you.
Is it possible that I can get Toastmaster Ernald George to room 1? Because he is one of the presenters.
You went already to room 1.
Okay, then I go back there.
Can I be placed in room 1? Thank you.
Who is speaking?
Toastmaster C. Gaskin, to which room did you ask to go again?
I don't have a preference.
Which division
We
are
have
you?
a lot of persons who have not indicated
Sorry,
which room they want.
Gaskin?
Yes, Division C.
C?
Yeah.
Okay, room 1.
If you just put the division in front of your name, put the IV and the letter, then we will know which room. If you're visiting, just let us know as well.
Sorry, good evening. I signed on after 7 and I'm lost. I don't know what's happening. What's it with all the rooms? Can somebody explain?
Which division are you?
Division.
Participants are for this evening's debate. I would like to also introduce to you the timer for this evening's debate, Toastmaster Marcella. At this point, please indicate to our participants how you are going to display the timing for their presentations.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to display. Good evening, everyone. Fellow DTMs, guests, judges, organizers. I am Marcella Santoma, your timer for this evening's Debate Masters Tour. My role is to record the time of every speaker who presents their speech. The duration of the speech is 5 minutes. At 3 minutes, I will display the green background. At 4 minutes, I will display the yellow background. And at 5 minutes, I will display the red background, where it will also stay on for 15 minutes, 15 seconds, sorry, after the 5 minutes is up. I would like to say best of luck to the speakers, and I hand you over to the lectern, to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Marcella. Toastmasters, we are ready. Climate change is the greatest threat facing humanity today. This evening, I'm delighted to invite now to the virtual lectern, the first speaker of the proposition, Toastmaster Ernald George. You now have 5 minutes to present on the topic, climate change is the greatest threat facing humanity today. Toastmaster George.
Its moderator, esteemed judges, colleagues proposing the moot, my worthy opponents, patient audience, a pleasant good evening. I stand before you to propose the moot that climate change is the greatest threat facing humanity today. I want you to imagine a world where shortages are rampant. People are dying in the streets from starvation. The food containers do not arrive, and the supermarket shelves are empty. You then hear on the news that 80% of the food crops in the United States were destroyed by a raging fire that burned out of control for 2 weeks. Also, simultaneously, in a different part of the country, massive, unexpected flooding destroyed 90% of the farmed animals, creating a shortage of meat and meat products. Climate change is the greatest threat facing humanity today. I will now define the key words in the moot. The key words in the moot are climate change, greatest threat, and humanity. Climate change is defined as the long-term alteration of temperature and typical weather patterns in a place. Greatest means considerably above normal or above average, and which I will substitute this for the synonym humongous. Threat means to inflict pain on human beings. And the word humanity refers to human beings. Based on the definitions of the key words, I now interpret the mood to mean the long-term alteration of temperature and typical weather patterns in the place can inflict the most humongous pain, injury, and damage on human beings today. I will focus on the argument on how climate change will bring food shortages to humanity, while my partner will focus on the effects, how climate change affects our health and also infectious disease. The main cause of climate change is the burning of fossil fuels. According to the European Commission website, quote, humans are increasingly influencing the climate and the Earth's temperature by burning fossil fuels. This adds enormous amounts of greenhouse gases to those naturally occurring in the atmosphere, unquote. Burning fossil fuels such as natural gas, oil, and coal release what is known as greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. What these greenhouse gases do is that they trap heat in the atmosphere. And they trap heat in the atmosphere. They let sunlight through, but they prevent the heat from the sunlight from escaping the atmosphere, raising the temperature of the Earth. The main greenhouse gases are water vapor, methane, ozone, nitrous oxide, and chlorofluorocarbons. There is a direct link between shortages and climate change. A quote taken from the Bloomberg Green says, food supplies will struggle to keep pace with the world growing population as climate change sends temperature soaring and droughts intensify. Temperature changes alter the environment and they hinder crops from growing. Because the temperature changes hinder the crops from growing, we have less crops being produced and we have more deficit in the production of crops. There is a direct link between food shortages and climate change. A quote taken again from the Bloomberg Green says, quote, food supplies will struggle to keep pace with the world's growing population as climate change sends temperature soaring. The higher temperatures also cause the polar glaciers to melt, releasing waters, raising sea levels, which causes flooding, again, destroying crops and also animals. This cumulative effect of climate change can be devastating to human beings. The droughts, the farm flooding, and the storms are the most humongous threat to the existence today of human beings. I therefore affirm the mood that climate change is the greatest threat facing humanity today. Back to you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you, Toastmaster George from Team A. We will now give the judges a few moments to mark their score sheets for Team A. I will now like to invite the first speaker for Team B, representing Division C, Toastmaster Jackie English, as she gives her presentation. Toastmaster Jackie, the virtual lectern is yours.
Good evening, Madam Moderator, opponent Team Division E, fellow Toastmasters and guests. My team, Division C and I, refute the motion and we reject the points made by the proposition's opening speaker For example, his arguments on how climate change will bring food shortages and droughts caused by emissions. According to NASA's definition of climate change, it's a broad range of global phenomena created predominantly by burning fossil fuels, which add heat-trapping gases to the Earth's atmosphere. Our team opposes the resolutions made by the affirming team that climate change is the greatest threat facing humanity today, as we advocate the passing of the Climate Change Act, which prevents threats of climate change. For instance, the Climate Change Act, passed in 2008, has formalized the UK's approach to tackling climate change, both on mitigation, that is, reducing emissions, and adaptation, that is, increasing resilience to climate change. Subsequently, the UK's direction on the Climate Change Act has flowed on achieving the long-term 2050 target. This act has cemented the UK's position as an international leader in tackling climate change. Plus, other countries have introduced their own legislation, and many have based it on the UK's Climate Change Act, for example, Sweden and New Zealand. According to the New Zealand Productivity Commission research examining the UK climate, conducted in 2017 by Theresa Weeks, the UK's greenhouse gas emissions were 44% below 1990 levels. Additionally, we negate that climate change is the greatest threat facing humanity today, as there are numerous benefits to climate change. For example, better agricultural yields. The professor of economics of climate change, Richard Tull of Sussex University, reviewed 14 studies of future climate trends. According to his new book entitled, "How Much Have Global Problems Cost the World?" he concluded that climate change improved human welfare during the 20th century. Moreover, we agree that the greatest benefit from climate change comes from carbon dioxide, as Professor Tull's studies revealed that crops grow better in the presence of higher carbon dioxide levels. Hence, what we deny is that climate change is the greatest threat facing humanity today, as at this moment, we are faced with greater threats such as COVID-19 pandemic, which, according to Wikipedia, caused over 4 million deaths over the past 2 years. Consequently, if our grandchildren survive COVID, they will be very old witnesses of climate change benefiting the world, especially with the adaptation of the Climate Change Act. My team, Division C, stands against the motion. Climate change is the greatest threat facing humanity today. Madam Moderator.
Thank you, Toastmaster Jackie, for your presentation. We will now give the judges a few moments to mark their score sheet for Team B. Toastmasters, let us now welcome to the virtual lectern the second speaker for the proposing team, Toastmaster Sashoy Duncan. Toastmaster Duncan, the virtual lectern is yours.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Protocols already established. Good evening, everyone. I would love to dive into my course, my discussion, my debate this evening on how climate change is the greatest threat, as is firstly outlined by my teammate and captain, the dangers of climate change and food. This will lead to starvation. But before I talk about health and infectious disease, let me address the misconceptions shared by my first speaker of the opposition. Crops may grow better in carbon dioxide, but we human beings won't. We need oxygen. And in the midst of carbon dioxide and other toxic gases, we will develop asthma, breathing conditions, and it will eventually lead to death. You quoted a professor from the University of Sussex talking about the 20th century. But listen, we have, as of tomorrow, over 200 countries coming together at the United Nations Climate Change Conference, and they are coming together because they believe that climate change is the greatest threat. Listen to Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations. He says, unless there is an immediate and rapid large-scale reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, limiting warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius or less, we will have a catastrophic consequence for people and the planet on which we love and live. Climate change is dangerous, it is deadly, and it is our greatest threat. According to Antonio Guterres, time is indeed running out, and I will show you why. Climate change will lead to a downturn in the health of our nation. It will lead to flooding, droughts, extreme events, and with all this, you will find diseases coming out. Many persons coming down with various diseases. Now, if you can see my screen, you will see injuries and fatalities coming out of severe weather conditions. We are accustomed to hurricanes in the Caribbean. If you notice this year, the hurricanes are moving slower, more rain, more wind, more deadly. Climate change, air pollution, asthma, cardiovascular disease, vector-borne diseases from weather extremities such as malaria, encephalitis, and the list goes on. Look, ladies and gentlemen, we will have a far greater impact than even what we're experiencing from the coronavirus. The opponent mentioned 4 million people passing away. Multiply that by 10 or 20 or 50. You will have greater deaths in the billions as more people experience mental depression, despair, post-traumatic stress, diarrhea, malnutrition, harmful disease, heat stress, cardiovascular failure, and the list continues. global climate change will lead to not merely health, but damages as it relates to death. The UK and Europe will be vulnerable to flooding. Countries in the Middle East will experience extreme heat waves. The African countries will experience droughts and food shortages. Australia will experience drought as well as heat waves. And the Caribbean, we are accustomed to our hurricanes. We will be having more frequent, more intense. And the earthquakes, we heard of one, and several others, one in Haiti and others, they will be more intense. Ladies and gentlemen, I firmly support the mood that climate change is the greatest threat facing humanity today. Not COVID, not anything that we can see today, because many times we focus on what we can see today and fail to focus on what is to come. Climate change, if we do not pay attention now, it will cause lifelong death, damage, and destruction in the future. It is the greatest threat, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Toastmaster Sashoy, for your presentation. We will now give the judges a few moments to mark their score sheets. Toastmasters, at this point, please join me in welcoming the second speaker of the opposition, Toastmaster Shaquille Lewis, as he gives his presentation. Toastmaster Lewis, the virtual lectern is yours.
Madam Moderator, opponents, Division E, judges, fellow Toastmasters, and most honored guests. This afternoon, after listening to the presentation presented by my worthy opponents this afternoon, a clear question has just crossed my mind. Is it safe to say that climate change is the biggest threat to humanity? I will let you answer this question. But for me, the answer is no. Studies have continued to show that the Earth climate has been changing since the beginning of time. Studies have shown that in the medieval times, around 460 million years to 445 million years ago, we continue to see that the climate has been changing. Temperatures has been rapidly increasing. So clearly, if these people survive these times, why is it that you are saying that the greatest, that climate change is the greatest threat? That, in my opinion, is not clearly true. Although climate change may have some drastic effects, as my worthy opponents mentioned, but did you know that climate change also brings a few benefits with it? Did you know that because of climate change, we now have we now have a lot of rich diversity. We have a lot more rivers. A lot of these countries have gained benefits, increased tourism, just to name a few, because of climatic conditions. And did you know that in a study that was done, over 1,000 scientists do not believe that humanity is the greatest threat? It is very preposterous for you to come with such a statement to prove that climate change is the greatest threat, because we've seen a lot of diseases. These diseases have been around since the beginning of time, and they will continue to be around, and climatic change cannot be blamed for it. In addition to this, in a study that was published in Nature, found that high temperatures similar to those observed in the 20th century before the 19th century occurred around 1000 to 1100 AD, which are constantly higher than the current temperatures that we are facing today. In addition to this, studies have also showed that increased hurricanes, droughts, and all of these disasters that you alluded to are not a result because of humans. They will continue to happen regardless if humans are involved in or not. It is just Mother Nature's way of revitalizing and to improve itself. So clearly, in addition to this, I must also mention that, did you know that when CO2 are released, about 50% of the CO2 gases are released back into our oceans? So clearly, these are just some benefits of the greenhouse emissions. So clearly, I cannot support this mood that climate change is the greatest threat to humanity. I can never support such a preposterous motion. In addition, we have, according to the United Nations, on the Sustainable Development Goals with regards to climate change, it is reported that 2019 was the second warmest year on record. At the end of the warmest decade, 2010 to 2019. Also, the state, because of the global lockdown of no travel, the climatic conditions will continue to improve. So therefore, we cannot blame humanity when nature is clearly running its course. And as I mentioned before, nature will always continue to run its course. So humanity definitely cannot be blamed. You may want to say that rising sea levels are causes to are as a result of climatic conditions. But it is clear, I am here to tell you that not every rising level of CO2 level does not really cause climatic change. Sometimes it may cause, but I would not say that it is a great threat for us to threaten humanity. So clearly, I re-establish my position that climate change is not the greatest threat to humanity. It is our actions and not humanity in itself. Madam Moderator.
Thank you, Toastmaster Lewis. We will now give the judges a few moments to mark their score sheets. Toastmasters, at this point, we will give the Zoom master an opportunity to move all debaters and judges into a separate breakout room. While the debaters and judges are in a separate breakout room, you will have the opportunity to share with me and with your fellow Toastmasters here your views on this moot this evening. Toastmaster, Zoom master, can you confirm that all debaters and judges have been moved to a separate breakout room?
I was trying to assign it, but it is not giving me the permission.
All right, we will give you a few more minutes to see if you are able to figure that out.
That's correct.
This evening's debate is happening with Division C.
Room 3 for me, please.
Okay. Emma, which room would you like to go to, please?
Good night.
Good night, Toastmaster. I see this.
It seems like we are having some issue with the subdivision of the groups, the A and B.
What is the issue? A and B?
Yes, because what happened is when I try to get all the members them to go to the room, I cannot see their names.
There wasn't something about taking off the video?
Wait.
Because if I check in my room 1, if I looking for certain names, let's say for instance, Shaquille Lewis, I cannot see his name.
You cannot locate him. Okay. Shaquille Lewis.
Yes.
I don't see him either.
That's correct. Also, Yvonne Edwin.
Are they from Division C or E?
Yes, they from Division C.
Have they dropped out maybe? Because I do not see them.
I don't think so because I saw all of them a while ago in the group. Because what I did, I made sure to have all of them next to each other. But when I go to send them in the breakout rooms,
Mm-hmm.
I can find none of them to assign them to the room.
That's rare. Yvonne, Shaquille, I don't see them in the room.
Because
Can
if
you, are they in the room right now?
I gonna double check again.
Please check. Please check if they are in the room.
Okay.
Hi, good evening. If you just joined us.
Good evening. I'm back, Madam Moderator. I just want to confirm from Division C, Yvonne Edwin. Jack,
That is correct.
you still in the room? Because it seems like they cannot see none of the names them in the group. Those that partaken in the debate, you all still in the room? If anything, just say yes or no.
Yes,
Yes,
I am here.
Okay.
Yvonne here.
Yes, I know. I see the names them. So I going back to the main room for them to see what is the problem. Give me a few minutes.
In the meantime, Toastmasters, please make sure that you're jotting down your views.
Okay, we haven't activated those rooms as yet.
Sorry. Yes, all of them are in the room.
Okay,
Every one of them.
Toastmaster. I see that. So it's okay. There's no problem.
The problem is I couldn't send none of them to the sub rooms. They are in the room 1, but not 1A and B.
Mercedes, your 10 minutes has gone.
He's having a problem, DTM Fabiola.
Which problem? What problem? Mercedes?
Yes, sorry?
Say that again.
Yes, what happened is those debaters, I was going to send them in the subgroups together.
And what happened?
And I cannot get their names in the group.
Okay. Milusha, can you help out? And I see this actually.
DTM Fabiola, she went to the main room to see what was going on.
Isn't this the main room?
This is the main
Sorry,
room.
she went to the main room for the debate.
Okay,
So
that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
I see this. If you are moving around, the recording will move with you too. Did you know that?
It has said that the recording stopped at one point, but it's still showing recording. I think.
Yeah, but I'm telling him that because he's recording in the breakout room, and when he moves around, the recording will move also with him. So
Let me pause.
At this point, I'd like to invite any other Toastmasters to share with me. Do
Before
you
you do
believe
that,
that?
can you please put me in the room with the judges?
Toastmaster Lindana,
Yes.
you are still here. Let me see if I can
I just got
invite
back in here.
the Zoom master to kindly assist Toastmaster Lindana.
Yes, I will.
Thank you. As we await Toastmaster Lindana being moved to the room with her fellow judges, please do not hesitate to share with me your views on climate change. We know that in District 81, climate change is a topical issue that comes to the fore. Is there any Toastmaster who would like to also share their views, either for the moot or against the moot, on climate change being the greatest threat facing humanity today? Toastmaster Rodney.
Hi, good evening, Madam Moderator. Good evening, Toastmasters.
Good evening.
The topic is kind of interesting, and it's something that we have dealt with for a very long time. And I do believe that climate change is not the greatest threat facing humanity right now. Most of us now, for some reason, we have become so sensitive to almost everything around us. We do not use the knowledge that we have and just common sense in dealing with stuff. For me, just a few months ago, the greatest threat facing humanity was Donald Trump. He's not there anymore. So we revert back to climate change. And for thousands of years, it's documented that the earth has been warmer than it is now. We have had many catastrophic climatic events like the Ice Age, and even about 2,000 years ago, there were evidence where the earth is maybe about 20 degrees hotter than it is now. And like somebody said, we are still around. We are built with a certain nature for us to survive. And if you believe in the Bible and the story of Noah, at a time where there was extreme flooding, we survived. They built an ark and some of us survived. So to think that humanity is just going to be wiped off the face of this earth, it will not happen. For me, there are more greater threats like hunger. Not everybody can afford a meal, and yet still we feel okay knowing that some people are hungry and we can do something about it. Poverty, not everybody can afford a cell phone, something that has become a need right now. Just imagine all the children now during the COVID time that cannot get access to education. They are just housebound. I mean, what about weapons of mass destruction? Year after year, all the countries keep investing into ways that they can destroy the earth. The thing about it, all the countries and world leaders, they want to be the one to destroy the earth. They do not want to be caught off guard, a major hurricane, something happens. So they continually try to develop weapons to destroy themselves, but they don't want to die in the process. With the built-in mechanisms of the earth, we cannot control that. And that is that is ticking, and that is really having the scientists awake at night, because they cannot control what God has built. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing those views with me, Toastmaster Rodney. Wow. Is there any Toastmaster in the room who wants to add to what Toastmaster Rodney said or to refute it? He had some very strong views and positions. Humanity will not be washed off the face of this earth. We've been dealing with climate change for thousands of years. Is there any Toastmaster who would like to contest what Toastmaster Rodney has shared?
Perhaps I may not contest what Toastmaster Rodney would have said, but but I would add it to some effect. Climate change has been recognized by the United Nations in the year 1992. Now that's almost 30 years ago. And for 30 years, we have mitigated climate change by going green and by empowering the reforestation initiative. And if you, well, not everyone here is Guyanese like I am, but our president, our former president that is, would have been awarded the Champion of the Earth distinction by the European Union in collaboration with other world organizations because of his empowerment of the reforestation and preservation of our forests, for want of a better word. Now, climate change, if it's been mitigated against for 30 years, would probably lose a bit of steam if we say that it's the greatest threat to humanity. About 2 to 3 years ago, in fact, I'll be precise, 2 years ago, President Donald Trump, as the previous Toastmaster would have said, was meeting with Kim Jong-un at the demilitarized zone between North Korea and South Korea so that they can speak about demilitarizing North Korea's nuclear endeavors, all due to the fact that Korea seemed to have intentions of being a future adjutant. And if we remember events that would have molded today's society, events like the Cold War and the Second World War, one would believe that nuclear warfare would be the greatest threat to humanity today, especially considering that nations in the Middle East, in Europe, in Asia, and in North America all have nuclear war power or
You
nuclear.
are indeed correct, Toastmaster Dante. And there are so many other things that can be deemed as the greatest threat facing humanity today. Is it really climate change? I see Toastmaster Karshina, you'd like to share your views on it? Please do go ahead.
Thank you, Toastmaster Lisa, Madam Moderator. I am passionate about this topic given I'm a meteorologist. So climate change is the atmospheric climate is the atmospheric condition over a long period of time, and a 30-year period would be the amount of time that meteorologists or atmospheric scientists take into consideration the changes of the atmosphere. As one of the teams has said, climate has been changing for centuries. It is not something that can just happen instantaneously and cause the different climate patterns or the natural disasters to occur. So it must be over an extensive period of time. Therefore, it is my opinion, although I'm a meteorologist, that climate change is not the main threat to society, to humanity today, given that we have the global pandemic, coronavirus right now, the COVID-19 pandemic. I think the biggest threat to humanity right now is humanity not washing their hands, taking into consideration the protocol, because not doing these things can actually eradicate humanity today. In order to have a hurricane or extensive drought period, it would take a much longer time than somebody just speaking to you and sneezing in your face or within the same environment. Even your sibling or your spouse not washing their hands properly, not taking social distancing seriously, and still going to live it up, that is instantaneous sickness, and you can actually eradicate your entire household. It's not climate change, which takes a longer time, an entire 30-year period. So maybe the next generation will be impacted more. We do need to take precautions now, but it's not as serious, in my opinion, as the COVID-19 pandemic. Therefore, climate change is not the biggest threat to humanity at this present time.
Thank you so much for sharing your views on that, Toastmaster Karshina. Indeed, you have, well, the meteorologist in the room, and you have shared some pertinent points that we have all noted. It is now time to listen to the final remarks of both members of the proposition and opposition. Toastmaster Arcides, can we kindly now re-welcome members of the proposition and opposition? Kindly note, Toastmasters, that at this point in the meeting and in the debate, the member of the opposition will have 3 minutes to share their final views. Likewise, the member of the proposition will have 3 minutes as well to share their final views as they share their concluding remarks on the topic, climate change is the greatest threat facing humanity today. I noted that we had a few hands up who still wanted to share their views on this topic. Please feel free to use the chat so that we can hear from you how climate change has affected you. Is it really the greatest threat affecting humanity today? As we await the debaters to rejoin us, as well as the judges. Do not be afraid to use the chat to share your views on this topic as we await the arrival of the debaters and the judges. We all know that as members of District 81, we must take the importance of climate change into consideration, and it affects us all in so many ways. So if it's affecting you directly, do not be afraid to share that in the chat as we learn some more if it is indeed the greatest threat facing humanity today. I'm quite sure that the debaters are ready.
Madam Moderator, if it's good, everybody has been sent to the room.
Thank you so much, Mr. Zoom Master, Toastmaster Arcides. Welcome back, debaters and judges. We are ready to listen to the final round as we give our summary remarks on the topic, climate change is the greatest threat facing humanity today. Debaters, are you ready? I will take it that they are ready, Toastmasters. At this point, I am delighted to welcome to the virtual lecture the member of the opposition to kindly come and share for the next 3 minutes their summary remarks. Toastmaster Yvonne, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
The virtual lecture is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, in order for the proposition to prove their position this evening, they needed and failed to answer the positive questions in this mood tonight that seem to suggest that climate change is the greatest threat to humanity. A lot of what was presented seemed to have stemmed from the fact that there would be food shortages and drought and abnormal temperatures. But my team, we based our argument on the simple merit that the implementation of a climate change act and following the SDG goals may seem to point in the direction that would allow for us to mitigate and adapt to climate change. But according to the argument at hand, we believe that climate change is not the greatest threat. In fact, the proposition failed to highlight the other threats that the world faces today. And this was brought out in the two arguments from the speakers who presented on my team. The health issues and the cancers that are eating away our humanity and the pollution that is destroying our planet, the terrorist violence, the greed, and all of this that is eliminating us one by one, are all of the things in the world today that we could look at. But yet, the proposition based their argument on health implications, an entire slide to indicate that even with COVID and the numbers we highlighted based on the statistics, that was enough to indicate that climate change would be fourfold. And they failed in presenting statistics to support that. It was a huff and bluff of many things that we may have heard on the news and definitions that we pulled from Google. But they failed to give us a clear indication as to what then is the greatest threat. Given the argument of the proposition, they seem to have agreed and even hinted that humans are influencing this. It is the gas, the carbon dioxide, the traps within the Earth atmosphere that is causing this. And who, if it is not us, humans, that are perpetuating the adverse impacts of climate change? Could we say, without a shadow of a doubt, that it is us humans who are, in fact, the greatest threat to humanity? Who burns the fossil fuel? Who is the root cause of all this heat that is trapped within the Earth's atmosphere? Ladies and gentlemen, we humans, if we don't control our actions, we will reap the benefits of that. We are the greatest threat to our humanity. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Toastmaster Yvonne. While we await the second speaker for the opposition, at this point, I'd like to invite, please do not use the chat because we still have others, someone else to come and debate. So it would be great if you can hold those thoughts. I know that you'd like to share so much more on your views of climate change, but I would like to encourage you not to use the chat at this moment as we await the speaker from Team B. Toastmaster Duncan, are you ready? Toastmaster Arcides, can you let me know if Toastmaster Sashoy Duncan is in the room?
I had sent everyone in the room. Let me double check because I don't have no one in the breakout room. Oh, he didn't admit it. No. If I see George, I can, okay, I see he have a next device. I gonna send that one again.
All right.
Seems like he had some problem and he went to a next device. I don't have no one in no other rooms.
Is Toastmaster Ernald George in the room?
Yes, I'm here.
All right.
Toastmaster Sashoy is also in the room.
While the judges are writing their scores down for Team B's speaker, we are awaiting the next speaker from Team A. Team A is Division E.
Toastmaster Sashoy Duncan is here.
Welcome, Toastmaster Sashoy. The virtual lectern is yours.
Actually, I am with Division E. I believe my opponent would be starting with the rebuttal.
That is correct, Toastmaster Sashoy.
The third speaker of Team B already spoke.
Yes, we just had Toastmaster Yvonne.
Oh, I'm sorry, but Division E indicators were not in the room at that time. All right, we will have our first speaker doing the rebuttal, Toastmaster George.
Toastmaster George, are you ready?
Esteemed judges, I rise again in full support of the moot and to strongly refute opposition's argument that climate change is not the greatest threat facing humanity today. I wish to deal with each speaker individually and dissect their points, beginning with the first speaker. The first speaker stated that food shortages and droughts are not caused by emissions. Yet, a quote says, food supplies will struggle to keep pace with the world's growing population as climate change sends temperatures soaring and droughts intensify. She mentioned the Climate Change Act of 2008. Yet the United Nations Secretary General has stated that they are off schedule in meeting the 2050 goal. She also mentioned that the COVID has killed 4 million deaths from COVID. Yet a new study from the Bloomberg Green has stated that there are 5 million deaths linked to climate change annually. We move on to speaker number 2. Speaker number 2 has reiterated the benefits of climate change, yet climate change causes millions of dollars in destruction, homelessness, depression, and death. The risks far outweigh the benefits. Climate change occurring, greenhouse emissions causes extreme weather, death of the human race eventually will occur. Animals and plants will also die. He mentions the 100 scientists, yet we have no credential for these scientists. The United Nations and other organizations have combined, and they are backed by thousands of scientists who believe that climate change is the greatest threat facing humanity today. I wholeheartedly affirm the mood, and I agree with the mood that based on the evidence presented in this debate today, that climate change is the greatest threat facing humanity today. Back to you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster George. And thank you to all debaters who took the time this evening to share with us their views on the topic, climate change is the greatest threat facing humanity today. At this point, we will invite the judges to go into a separate breakout room to finalize marking their ballots and to submit their scores. Toastmaster Arcides, kindly let me know when all judges have been placed into a breakout room.
I am going to do that now.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I have sent everyone. The head judge automatically can do. Oh, all the judges is in the room. They are in the room.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Arcides. Toastmasters here with us, please join me in giving a virtual applause to all the debaters this evening. I am sure that you will agree with me that they did their best. I'm not seeing those virtual applauses. It takes a lot of preparation and time. So we need to applaud these Toastmasters who took the time to debate this evening. Thank you so much. Now let us get to know a little bit more about our debaters and how they're preparing for this evening's presentation. Toastmaster Ernald George, are you still there with us? So this evening, Toastmasters, we had Division C and Division E challenging the moot, climate change is the greatest threat facing humanity today. We heard from Team A, which was Division E, and Team B, which was Division C. On my screen, I can readily see Toastmaster Sashoy Duncan. Can you share with us? How did you feel? How was it preparing for this debate?
I must say, Madam Moderator, that this debate mood has forced me to really research about climate change. Honestly, I've always heard about climate change, but I've honestly never really paid much attention to it until Saturday night. But I'm happy for that because I now know that we're having this major conference happening on climate change. And I strongly believe this is not just a debate now, but it is the greatest threat facing us today.
Most definitely. And thank you so much for taking the time to prepare and to learn more and share about what you know about climate change and if it is indeed the greatest threat facing humanity today. I know that you're the other member of your team, Toastmaster Ernald George. Are you still here with us? Would you like to share with us what was your experience preparing for this debate this evening?
I came into the debate, actually, when I joined the team, I didn't know I was going to be the lead speaker. I always wanted to debate. I never really had an opportunity to, so I'm really thankful for the opportunity to finally get to debate. I have learned a lot during this time of preparation. I learned a lot about climate change. I knew that climate change was an issue, but I didn't know it was this big of an issue. And I concur with Division Director Duncan, is that climate change is the greatest threat facing humanity today, and it's something that we need to do about it, and very serious. Needs to be done about it now. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to debate.
Thank you so much for sharing those words with us, Toastmaster George, Toastmaster Duncan. We also had in the debate this evening, Toastmaster Jackie, Toastmaster Shaquille, and Toastmaster Yvonne. Would any of you like to share quickly with us what your experience was like preparing for tonight's debates?
Madam Moderator, I will mention it.
All
This
right, we have just a few minutes.
This experience was one that I would definitely not forget, because I've already had my speech prepared, but sometimes you have to be able to tweak now and then. So that happened to me tonight, because although I had my speech prepared, I had to tweak a bit of stuff. But nevertheless, it was an experience that I'm never going to forget. And I would definitely